Hi, welcome back to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad. And on this episode, we'll be exploring number 38 from AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions, the 100 Greatest Love Stories of All Time.
And number 38 is It Happened One Night, directed by Frank Capra, released in 1934, starring Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert.
The synopsis for this romantic comedy is as follows. Spoiled heiress Ellie Andrews, played by Claudette Colbert, has eloped with pilot and fortune hunter King Wesley against the wishes of her father. He knows Wesley is only interested in her money and wants the marriage annulled. Jumping ship in Florida, Ellie runs away and boards a bus to New York City to reunite with her husband. She meets fellow passenger Peter Warren, played by Clark Gable, a newspaper reporter who was recently fired. He recognizes her and gives her a choice. She can give him an exclusive on her story and he'll help her reunite with Wesley, or he will tell her father where she is. She agrees to help him. As they go through several adventures, Ellie loses her initial disdain for Peter and they fall in love. When the bus breaks down, they begin hitchhiking. They secure a ride thanks to Ellie displaying her shapely leg to a passing motorist. The driver tries to steal their luggage, but Peter chases him down and steals his car. Near the end of their journey, Ellie confesses her love for Peter. The owners of the motel they are staying at notice the car is missing and expel Ellie. Believing Peter has deserted her, she telephones her father, who agrees to let her marry Wesley. Meanwhile, Peter has obtained money from his editor to marry Ellie, but misses her on the road. Although Ellie has no desire to be with Wesley, she believes Peter has betrayed her for the reward money and agrees to a second formal wedding to Wesley. On the wedding day, she reveals the full story to her father. When Peter comes to their home, her father offers him the reward, but Peter only wants $39.60 in expenses. Her father presses and wants to know if Peter loves her. He dodges the question initially, but eventually admits he loves her and storms out. As he is walking her down the aisle, he tells Ellie about Peter's refusal to take the reward and that there is a waiting by the rear gate if she changes her mind. Just before she says I do, she leaves Wesley at the altar and drives away. A few days later, her father is working at his desk when Wesley calls to let him know that he will accept the financial settlement and not contest the annulment. He responds to a not-so-patient Peter, it's done. The lights in the cabin Peter and Ellie are staying in goes dark.
All right.
This is a fun movie.
I love this movie. This is slowly becoming like one of my favorite old movies. We watched it like a couple years ago, maybe.
Not that long ago. Maybe a year ago.
Yeah, just because
It was a few months before we started this list.
Yeah, I don't remember why we watched it, but we did.
We were going through and just randomly, you would choose a movie, I would choose a movie. I think I chose this one.
Okay, so good choice because this movie is great. It is funny as all heck, and it's still funny to this day.
Yep.
It's kind of coined as one of, actually credited as the first screwball comedy.
Well, first rom-com.
Yeah, rom-com, really.
Like, pretty much every rom-com trope you can think of is in this movie, and it's the first time it was done. It's also one of the last movies that was done before the Hays Code started. So they get away with some racier stuff than you would generally see in a classic movie. I mean, they're like, even though they're like not sharing a bed, they're in like the same bedroom. That's pretty racy.
Sorry.
And then, the scene, the real famous scene where she puts her leg out and,
and like
her leg.
She shows, like, he's been trying to hail a car by hitchhiking and nobody's stopping. And he won't listen to her. So she's like, look, let me try it. And he's like, yeah, okay, you try it. And she tries it and she shows leg. And the car immediately,
it comes to a skidding
stop and pulls over. It's hilarious. And it's so interesting to watch movies from the 30s and then watching movies in the 50s. How does he get a little rough with her? Yeah, he kind of gets very frustrated with her and shakes her or yells at her or whatever. I mean, that's very tame to what we have seen in movies.
Like a punch.
Like a punch, you know. But it's very interesting to see the contrast between, you know, how women are treated in this time period compared to the 50s.
Yeah.
Like this Claudette Colbert's character is treated as an equal to Clark Gable. You know, he looks down on her a little bit because she comes from money.
Yeah, he looks down on her not because she's a woman, but because she's kind of a rube.
Yes, she's
I
kind
think
of like a spoiled brat.
He would look down on a man in her exact position the same way, so it's not a sexist thing. It's a class thing.
No, and it's really funny because she has no clue like how real life works. You know, she gets on the bus and she's like,
she has no money.
She has no money for one thing, and then she's like, oh, okay, well, he's like, okay, we'll be here for 20 minutes. And she's like, okay, can you hold the bus for me?
Yeah.
Because I need to go and do something. I might be like 10 minutes late, so just hold the bus.
Yeah.
And it's like, nobody's holding the bus for you, lady.
That's not how buses work. One of the interesting things that came out of this movie was there's a scene where Clark Gable takes off his shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And he's not wearing an undershirt.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, at that time, you know, most people were wearing like a wife beater.
Yeah.
And like after this movie, the sale of undershirts in the country like plummeted.
Well, he has no shirt on.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
People stopped wearing them.
Yeah, because it was something about the lighting or something where they asked him to take it off because it wasn't working. So he was completely naked, and nobody was wearing undershirts anymore.
I mean, honestly, I've never worn one. The only time I've ever worn one was with a dress shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Outside of that,
well, that's what they were really all wearing back then, anyway.
Yeah, true.
I also wonder if this is the first place we see, if this is what started the trend of the blanket between the two beds.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, because you see that in some movies.
I can't think of another movie I saw.
I've seen it in TV shows where they've done that, where he called it the Wall of Jericho. And he was, because they had to share a room. This was at a time where they were not interested in each other, and they had to share a room to save money. And so he put up a line between the two beds and hung a sheet over it so they couldn't see each other undress and stuff. And that was really funny because
they do it in the last scene of the movie too, where they're like staying in a cabin, and
the same cabin.
And the two the owners of the motels, you know, because they tell them they're married.
Yeah.
And the owners of the motel are wondering why they want a clothesline and an extra sheet. So they put it up, and you know, basically, you know, Clark Gable's character keeps calling her dad, like, "Is this thing done yet?"
Yeah.
And it's like, finally the walls of Jericho can fall once her dad confirms that they're not married anymore. And you hear like there's like a little toy like trumpet, and then the lights go out. So you kind of know what's going to happen, which is for that time pretty racy too.
Yeah, really. I mean,
they're not married yet.
No, they're not. So yeah, it's funny, light, entertaining. It ages pretty well.
It does. Again, it does, because people are so used to the tropes in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it set them up, and it does it really, really well. They have great chemistry.
Lots of good chemistry between the two.
The movie is just funny. Like all the humor hits. Like a lot of these movies that are so-called comedies, sometimes you're like,
what?
This is just not. This shouldn't have been funny then. It's certainly not funny now.
Yeah.
This is universally funny. All the stuff that happens is really, really funny.
And then there's like this scene where they have to fake like they're
fighting.
They're fighting, and they're like putting on this big production.
Yeah, it's really great.
So funny, and it's just a really good. It's also a road trip movie, really.
Yeah.
It's really, really good and really well done, and stands the test of time to me, for sure.
I gave this one a 67. You gave it a 79. So the list score is 73.
Yeah, it deserves to be on the list for sure.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm glad it's as high as it is too.
Yes, for sure.
Especially with some of the stuff that is going to be coming up here. That's kind of in the The 30s are rough. I'm just gonna say
The 50s.
no, the numbers in the
Oh, yeah.
are rough.
They are rough.
Pretty rough so far.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy. But this, and Clark Gable, super charming in this movie. She's beautiful.
Yeah. It sounds like the part was written for her, and originally they couldn't get her to do it. Then they were able to get her to do it. And Clark Gable, they used to have the studio system. He was loaned to this studio to be in this movie. And I was looking at like the pay discrepancy. I was like, holy smokes! Like she got paid like $50,000 in 1934 to make this movie.
Good for her.
And he was making like $2,500 a week.
Good for her.
And it was like probably like a 4-week shoot. So she probably made like 10 times. Almost.
How far we crumbled after the 30s.
Well,
it's really weird.
The early film was really dominated by women. There were a lot of female filmmakers, and it just, like all of patriarchy, just kind of,
It's really sad.
It is really sad. Really, really great movie, though. Definitely worth it. Take the time out to watch this movie. You will not be disappointed.
I would say if you're going to watch any movie that we've reviewed on this channel that you haven't seen, this is the one to watch.
This is a good one. Yeah.
It's so good. Please watch it.
Yeah.
If you have any comments, if you have seen it and would like to share your thoughts on it, please do so in the comments. If you like our channel and like what we're putting out there, please subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to talk to us directly, please email us at ratingthelist@gmail.com. And for now, I think that's it. We're Rating the List. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.